Wipha sets sights on Hong Kong on today's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for July 19. So the big story remains the big tropical storm bordering on typhoon status now, Tropical Storm Wipha, which is a severe tropical storm on the local scales, heading towards the southern coast of China and the Hong Kong Macau region over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. It's now getting rather close. Elsewhere, the tropics generally quiet, but there are a few areas of interest on day 49 of Atlantic hurricane season. We have that disturbance there in the central Atlantic, M7, which we're giving a 30% chance of development at this point. It will be a small, probably short-lived system, but something that bears watching at least for a little while. In the Eastern Pacific, we have two areas of interest, both still at a low chance of development right now. K7 that we've marked there, now moving quite far over the open Pacific. The other system behind it hasn't yet materialized, but we are expecting it to appear in a few days, and that could develop later on down the line. Well, in the Western Pacific, of course, we've got a Yellow Typhoon Warning in effect, which we'll cover in a moment, but behind Wipha we've got those two other systems, one of them at 60% chance, a very large system potentially, and another system that could form east of the Mariana Islands next week. Some models want that to be quite strong. In the North Indian Ocean, things are very quiet here now, not much going on at all, still just the one storm so far according to our analysis this year. Of course, there haven't been any named storms in the basin at all. We think there should have been one. And in the southern hemisphere, we've still got what's left of Tropical Storm 1S. Never managed to get itself named either, but got the JTWC designation, of course. Remnant low at this point. It is producing a little bit of convection still, but it is mostly out of here and will be completely gone in a couple of days. The Australian region also looking very quiet. In fact, very little cloud cover across the whole region, to be honest. Quite a few clouds, though, over the easternmost part of Indonesia into Papua New Guinea. But in general, a quiet basin. Let's check in on the main subject then, which is high-end Tropical Storm Wipha right now. 70 mile per hour winds, pressure 976 millibars, 21.1 north, 117.3 degrees east as of 8 p.m. Hong Kong time this July 19th. It is currently 223 kilometers from Zheshenzhen, 258 from Shantou, 273 from Shanwei, 348 from Hong Kong, and 473 from Guangzhou. Signal 3 warnings are in effect for Hong Kong and Macau at this point, and of course a yellow typhoon warning for extensive parts of the coastal regions of China. The storm is expected to intensify. So here is the latest satellite imagery of Wipha as it continues to move almost westerly actually at the moment, really throwing up some significant convection around the western and southern side, and that has only continued since these images. A massive burst that's occurring which will probably push it into typhoon status in very short order. Could it be rapidly intensifying? That is a big question right now. Could we see quite a bit more intensification out of this? It's certainly not foreseen by the agencies, JTWC in particular only calling for a 65 mile per hour peak. Well, that clearly is not going to happen. They were very late in calling the storm, only late yesterday, and now slowly heading towards Hong Kong on this imagery. You can see it down the left hand side, the storm itself gradually moving just north of west. The eye really starting to show itself a little bit better there. With that convective blow up, it does appear that the northwestern side has taken a bit of a hit in response to that, so I suppose it may not be as clear-cut as it appears at the moment, but we'll see how things go. I really think that this will become a typhoon very shortly. Here's some radar imagery throwing some really significant rain showers over the eastern part of Taiwan right now, getting some really heavy rainfall, and also pushing into the Hong Kong Macau region very shortly as well with some of the more moderate bands of the storm. This is what's left of 1S, that tropical storm as well. Looks like what's left of its circulation is being dragged towards the southeast. It's hard to get a read on this properly looking at the imagery, moving around a lot. A little bit of convection still remaining, but this is pretty much a foregone conclusion. Well, let's take a look at blue marble imagery from around the world right now. This fantastic imagery now available on the Forster team website, and it shows the Atlantic first of all, big frontal system off the coast of the United States. In the Caribbean region, not too much going on here, one or two little spots of heavy thunderstorms, and over the open Atlantic you can get to see that little system towards the bottom right hand side that we've given a low chance to. National Hurricane Center, I believe, have it at near 0%, and this is the Eastern Pacific as well, looking at that other system which is embedded in all of that storminess there, the intertropical convergence zone still at this point, and that's going to be its main struggle. And this is of course a tropical storm Wipha, which looks like it will be a typhoon very soon. Massive bank of cloud detached from it as well, which is continuing precipitation over the Philippines and could also give birth to that next system. And this is the Bay of Bengal region, showing some general monsoonal showers and what's left of a circulation just about reaching the border with Pakistan now over India, which could have been a land depression earlier. And this is the Southwest Indian Ocean, looking across the whole basin there. You can see 1S on the right hand side, still got that signature look of a tropical cyclone just without the convection or the circulation. And this is the South Pacific, looking relatively quiet, very much so in the tropical zones in particular. And this is the European region, a few storms moving across France right now, and a non-tropical low still swirling over Ukraine at this point. Mediterranean itself is pretty quiet. Sea surface temperatures across the Western Atlantic in particular are really hurtling forward. The Sargasso Sea, even east of Bermuda, over 30 degrees Celsius in one or two spots. And in the Gulf of Mexico, that's where the hottest spots are, off Louisiana, 32 degrees. Off the coast of Mexico, it's also extremely warm there as well, all along the coast pretty much. Of course, out to sea is where the Eastern Pacific is struggling a bit this year, and the tracks of the storms that we've had so far really show that. Western Pacific, really high temperatures off the coast of the Philippines still, even after this massive area of cloud has passed over, usually reducing temperatures, still remaining high, 32 degrees in a large area there, extending up to the East China Sea as well. Bay of Bengal looking pretty good, 30 degrees plus, Arabian Sea a little bit behind, but that is pretty much par for the course at this time of year. How is it compared to average? The oranges are above normal, the blues are below normal. The Atlantic in general is above, especially near the Bermuda region and up the US East Coast. Gulf of Mexico slightly above normal. Eastern Pacific is still half and half, really is, looking at that image there. And in the Western Pacific it is also generally above average, but a significant cool spot north of the Mariana Islands. In the extratropical zones, extremely warm waters off the coast of Japan out towards the east. Oceanic heat content denoting significant amounts of energy, still huge amounts in fact, over the Philippine Sea. Western Pacific really just starting to get running, to be honest, and I expect we'll be seeing quite a lot more activity as we move through the season. Of course, you'd expect nothing less. Eastern Pacific, a few little spots here and there, but nothing special. The Atlantic and the Caribbean looking quite good, in particular there, heading into the loop current, but in general, the Atlantic is probably around a little bit above average, I would expect, out to sea that is, but for that potential system, not too much energy for it to pick up on at the moment. So let's check the computer models. This is the GFS over the next 5 days. You can see Wipha moving off towards the west there, scraping the coast of southern China, not far from Hong Kong as well, and then into the Gulf of Tonkin, where it may possibly get a brief second wind. Then these next two systems come onto the radar very quickly. One, just how large that next system is, but two, how messy it actually is now as well. GFS seems to have a cyclone developing briefly near the Batanes Islands into the Philippines, and then some of its energy gets sucked into that massive system later on, which I have no idea what to tell you about that. It struggles to become a tropical cyclone due to its massive size, but will be producing huge amounts of gales and rainfall. Eastern Pacific, you can just about make out a few little patterns here for potential systems, that obviously the ones we've been watching, and now the Atlantic system, which you can see the little signature there as well, are potentially getting to brief tropical storm status, although it would appear a little bit unlikely right now. GFS is still the most confident on that one, followed by the European model actually, but the other models aren't on board yet. And this is the rainfall expectation over the next 7 days now for the whole region. So some of this will be from Tropical Storm Wipha, and other parts of it will be from the next massive monsoonal sloppiness that's going to be approaching by the looks of things. Look at some of those rainfall totals, however. 50 inches in parts of western Luzon, the mountains. That's 1,250 millimeters of rainfall. And for parts of Hainan as well, from Wipha directly, we could be looking there at over 350 millimeters of rainfall. Taiwan as well, getting residuals from Wipha and the next system, getting up to similar numbers. This is the longer range then, day 5 to 10. That system, if it does become a tropical cyclone when it's moving up there through the East China Sea, eventually dies off by the looks of things. Then there's that next typhoon, which the GFS is quite confident about. Other models slowly starting to get on board, which is why we've raised it to 30%. GFS, a significant typhoon there, bordering on major typhoon status. Then it swivels off towards the west, gets behind all of that frontal energy to the south, and it might get stuck there near Japan for a little while. In the medium range for the Eastern Pacific, finally one of these waves really catches on and becomes a fully fledged tropical cyclone. Looks like it could become a hurricane there before the end of July. So that's 10 days away roughly that becomes a hurricane. Will that happen or not? Well, I wouldn't bet against it given how the Eastern Pacific has started this season. There's been a bit of a lull, but could the energy be coming back into the basin as we get towards the end of the month? Decent place for it, actually reaches major status there just at the very end of that loop. Scan the barcode and that will take you through to the Force 13 merch store, where you can take a look at all of our items as well as our full season and individual storm animations on request. And you can follow all of our outlets on our Linktree page, quick access links to all of our platforms. And in the fantasy range, this is day 10 to 16, and not to be taken seriously, I always have to put that disclaimer in. Well, that typhoon stalls around for a very long time. In fact, it barely moves. Look at that. Into the first days of August, then it starts to lift northwards, landfall in Kyushu, and then eventually further towards the northwest by the looks of things. If you remember yesterday's bulletin, that is completely different to what it was saying yesterday, which is why we really need to give this a massive grain of salt. Because the system hasn't even formed yet, but keep watching it, things may change further. That Eastern Pacific hurricane, not a typhoon, but a hurricane there, continuing on through the basin towards the west-northwest, gradually, very gradually weakening there. A decent storm to watch by the looks of things, won't be affecting any land areas. Should also point out, whilst I've got the opportunity, there was another typhoon visible on that image that I didn't get to talk about in the Western Pacific, way out towards the east, forms out of that very long line of monsoonal rainfall. So a really messy picture in the Western Pacific, but that is quite common at this time of year. But what was less common was a very powerful typhoon in July, and certainly Amy was one of those. A Category 4, not far off its peak intensity. It reached 145 mph winds, was still at 140 whilst it was making its approach to China. It did weaken substantially just as it was making landfall, but there it is pictured on this day in 1991, along with Tropical Storm Enrique, which was barely anything left of it at that point, just about to lose tropical storm status way out over the Eastern Pacific. That was on this day 34 years ago. Back to today then, and we are still code orange for the current situation. In the Atlantic, the next name is Dexter. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Gil, and in the Central Pacific, it is Iona. 41 storms so far around the world in 2025. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Francisco, and in the North Indian Ocean, it will be Shakti. And of course, we're coming into the new season in the Southern Hemisphere. Still feels interesting to see 2025-26 now get bandied about. In the Australian region, the next name is Fina. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, it's Awo, which I think should have already been named from 1S. And in the South Pacific, the next name is Ermil.
Become an Ultimate Fan today.